Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Fifth Phrase, the next Ho'oponopono and Zero Limits Healing Stage, by Joe Vitale, with Dan Strutzel. Narrated by Joe Vitale, with Dan Strutzel.
Introduction. Hi, I'm Dan Strutzel, president of Inspire Productions, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another life-changing audiobook with Dr. Joe Vitale. The Fifth Phrase, the next Ho'oponopono and Zero Limits Healing Stage, and other advanced Ho'oponopono healing methods. You may know Joe from his appearance in the 2006 movie phenomenon called The Secret, which explained the law of attraction and how it can help you to be a more successful and happy individual. You may also know Joe from his runaway best-selling book, Zero Limits, which introduced the world to the secret Hawaiian system of Ho'oponopono, and Joe's teacher, Dr. Hugh Len. But what you may not know is that Joe Vitale has been changing lives with his original ideas on spiritual growth, wealth mindset, marketing, and more for over 35 years. Joe wrote his first book, Zen and the Art of Writing, way back in 1984. And since then, he has written more than 70 books, appeared in 15 movies, spoken around the United States and the world, from Russia to Kuwait. I've had the distinct honor of knowing and working with Joe for 20 of those years, publishing some of his most successful audio programs, such as The Missing Secret and The Secret to Attracting Money, and most recently interviewing him for his book from G&D Media, The Art and Science of Results, which features several of his most popular ideas for clearing inner blocks to goals. I appreciate many things about Joe as an author, but two qualities are particularly relevant to this audiobook. One, Joe has always been on the cutting edge of the topic he is discussing, whether it is marketing ideas for your business or spiritual growth ideas for your soul. And two, Joe has the unique ability to communicate those ideas in an entertaining, clear, and accessible way that anyone can benefit from and master. There are a few reasons why these qualities are particularly relevant to this audiobook. First, the ideas that follow are truly cutting-edge spiritual teachings. Joe literally changed the conversation about how to grow personally and spiritually when he revealed the 4 phrases of Ho'oponopono and how they are so different from traditional ideas based on intention or empowerment. Now, in this audiobook, Joe will reveal his long-awaited 5th phrase, which to date he has only revealed to his advanced Ho'oponopono certification clients, and which adds a whole new dimension to this ancient Hawaiian system. He'll also take his original Ho'oponopono material to a whole new advanced level and teach you how to advance to the next level of spiritual growth, what he calls awakening. So this audiobook represents the most cutting-edge content Joe has ever discussed, and as you'll soon learn, Joe is not going to communicate these advanced ideas like some inaccessible spiritual guru. He'll communicate these ideas like a fellow traveler who is walking this spiritual journey alongside you. As Joe discusses in nearly every talk he does worldwide, in the early 1980s, Joe was homeless in Dallas, Texas, was struggling in his career and at an emotional low point. And while he has now achieved international acclaim, financial wealth, and has grown further emotionally and spiritually than he ever thought possible, he still treats himself as a beginner on the path and still has the daily personal and spiritual challenges of you, his fellow travelers. The difference is that the unique distinctions he has uncovered over his lifetime of study, practice, and experience has given him a set of answers to address those challenges, and even more importantly, use them as another path of personal growth and discovery. So get ready to go to a whole new level of spiritual understanding as Joe Vitale reveals the 5th phrase, the next Ho'oponopono and Zero Limits Healing Stage, and other advanced Ho'oponopono healing methods. Joe, it's great to be with you again.
It's fantastic to be here. What a wonderful introduction. You said some very nice things. Thank you very much for that. What I'd like to do before we go very far is to have a kind of invocation. Sure. This is to signify that this is a different kind of a program. It's very spiritually based, psychologically based, but we're talking about going past our egos, going past the illusions of life, and tapping into what I call divinity. And in order for me to be a clear channel of that, I want to say a kind of a prayer, sure, an invocation. O infinite divine mind, through my beloved high self, cleanse this unit of all negativity, both within and without, that it may be a perfect vessel for your presence.
Well, Joe, I'm also very excited to be with you again at this beautiful studio here in Austin, Texas, with a great friend of ours both, discussing these profoundly important ideas. And I've called this first session Divided No More, How Ho'oponopono Reveals Our Inner and Outer Wholeness. And because right now, in our culture, as well as individually, there seems to be a lot of, in this particular cultural moment, a lot of perceived divisions, if you will, in the culture, whether it be around cultural questions, whether it be around politics, income, all sorts of things. And then, of course, individually, we hear a lot about just individually people experiencing more higher levels of anxiety, depression, different types of emotional issues than we had seen, let's say, 20 years prior. So this particular cultural moment, I think what we're going to be talking about with these advanced Ho'oponopono ideas are really going to help people understand how they can make both themselves a more whole person and also our society, bring our society together and how we can all play a part in that. And I wanted to kind of frame, do you have page 113, Joe, of Ebb at Zero?
Page 113?
Yeah.
So, I have the book.
Okay.
And I can get to 113. What's on 113?
It's a quote. There's a quote that kind of relates to this.
A house divided against itself cannot stand. Did you want to read it?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of set the tone with this.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to begin this session, Joe, with a quote from Dr. Hugh Len. And we'll be learning more about Dr. Hugh Len in this program. He said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand. This is true for nations, communities, organizations, and families, as well as for individuals. In the house of humanity, the individual is the common denominator. When the individual is divided, the house is divided." So, Joe, setting that context, I'd like to begin the program by talking about the benefits of Ho'oponopono, going to advanced levels with ideas like the fifth phrase that we'll be talking about, and particularly, how can Ho'oponopono help address some of these issues of divisions, within ourselves and within society?
That is a jump into the deep end of the philosophy of life here.
Right.
So you want to go for the gold. You want to go for the winning prize and really wrestle some of the big questions right to the ground. So let's dive in.
Yeah.
All right. The very first thing that I want to say is what we're going through right now as you were talking and saying that we're going through some things where the divisions are obvious and they seem more intense and they seem more rampant than what they might have been 20 years ago. That's a perception that is narrow. And I don't mean that in any way insulting.
Right.
I take a historic view of life. And because I've written books like on P.T. Barnum from the 1800s and on Bruce Barton on the 1920s, I have a sense of what people were going through at different time periods. And most recently, I've been into Stoicism for lots of reasons. So I have an interest in what's going on 2,000 years ago.
Sure.
And here's what we discover. What we see today has always been happening. It's not new. It may seem new because we are the ones feeling it and living it. And so it is an expression of the now. That's what's happening to us. And the second reason it seems like it's happening more now than ever before is because of the media.
Yeah.
Social media wasn't around 25, 30 years ago, let alone 2,000 years ago. And so everything is being amplified to an extent that has never been seen before in history.
Right.
And when somebody stubs their toe, they tell the world. Right. And suddenly it feels like toe stubbing is a new epidemic, where in reality it's not. So the very first thing we want to look at is, yes, people are going through things, but we went through the Civil War in America. We went through the Great Depression in America. We have seen things around the world. You mentioned me in the introduction going to Russia, going to Kuwait. I'm going to countries that have seen savage histories that have torn them apart.
Right.
This idea of division is not new, But what do we do about it?
Right.
And this is where we want to go even deeper than that observation. And what we do about it is realize the real division is between the individual and what I call divinity. In Ho'oponopono, they refer to God. They refer sometimes to gods in the plural. And Dr. Hulan, who you referenced, often will call this great something, the great mystery, the divine. Where we're separate is between the individual and their connection to the divine. And when we feel separate from source, then we feel like, well, we're vulnerable for one thing. We got no protection. We're here on the planet all by ourselves. And whatever instigates fear in us, whether it's the newspapers or the media or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or there's a long line of things standing in line ready to take target practice at you by sending negativity to you. As long as we feel separate, we are going to feel the emotional impact of that negativity, and it's going to hurt. So how does Ho'oponopono help? The very word is referring to make right. Ho'oponopono is to make right. It is to correct, in a more defined answer, a perception. And the perceptions we have about life, about politics, about other people, about the social beings that's going on around us, of the social world, those perceptions are what are creating the very thing we're complaining about. This is, Dan, this is deep, and this is complicated, and we're going to unravel it in this program. But Ho'oponopono, I wrote Zero Limits, I think in 2005, 2006, it came out, I believe. So it has been traveling around the world, creating its own following. There's a grassroots movement behind it. And I wrote At Zero 10 years later, the follow-up sequel book. And because of those, I have heard from everybody on the planet. I have heard from people who have used it for everything from healing their pets to healing relationships, immediate ones, like with their family. I've heard of people using it to increase their wealth, their prosperity, to increase their sales quota. I personally have been using it for, at this point, I don't know what it is, 15 years. And the basic 4 phrases, which we'll talk about, but we want to go beyond them. The basic 4 phrases, that's really the new tape in my head. It's the new audio program. It's going on in my head right now. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. As I'm talking to you, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. It's the background voice in my head. Why is it going on? Why do I want it? In the invocation to this program, I was asking divinity to cleanse me so that I can be purely in this moment to hear the voice of the divine. And the more I can hear the voice of the divine, the less I'll be separate, the less there'll be that division, and the more I can, we'll use the word channel, inspiration through this program to help people.
That's brilliant. So how can, for those people, and you've really put this in a great perspective here, Joe, from a historical perspective, there's no doubt, like you say, that we have experienced these divisions before. And that really, that piece of the media, if you will, it's almost like the media, and particularly our phones, feeding this, looking at this, is almost replacing, let's say, the tape of, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, with, whatever's going on in the media, whatever horrible things are happening in the world, whatever, and that becomes our new tape in the mind, if you will. And that's what we're feeding. And so how is it, for people, again, who are feeling that sense of division, it is, first of all, great to know, like you said, when we look at this from a historical perspective, we've been here before, and we've learned how to overcome these divisions in different ways before, and then maybe have fallen back into them again. But how can Ho'oponopono specifically help to make us a more whole, integrated, and authentic human being, both inside and out, for people who are feeling that division?
I love that question.
Yeah.
So here's my blunt answer. Ho'oponopono is the road out of hell.
Yeah.
It is the road out of hell. And when I say it, I want to put that in perspective too. I've studied a lot of philosophies. I'm in the movie, as you pointed out, The Secret, which is about law of attraction, positive thinking, mind power. At a certain point, a lot of that becomes impotent. At a certain point, a lot of the feel-good statements, even the ones from ancient Stoicism and the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, they're statements to get you through the day. And from that perspective, thank God for them, because there are times when we need to get through the day with some sort of statement of support, of strength, of feeling good, or, the old "you can do it" kind of an expression. But with Ho'oponopono, you can end up wiping away the need for those statements. In other words, a lot of our reality is co-created. We're doing it from the inside out. Most of us don't know that. Most of us never even heard that before. And most of us, when we do hear that, hey, you've co-created your own reality, we'll argue about it, we'll dismiss it, we'll fight it, we'll resist hearing it in any way, shape, or form. But Ho'oponopono is teaching us to take responsibility for our part in the creation of the very reality we're complaining about. And then once we take responsibility for it, we use Ho'oponopono, and there's a variety of techniques besides just the 4 statements, to clean up the part of us that created it in the first place. So if we're using "I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you," or the 5th phrase when we get to that, to clean up the program, the unconscious beliefs, the part of our system that's kind of hidden in the shadows that has been creating our program, and we delete that program because of Ho'oponopono, we're then free of it. We won't create it again. When we're free of it, we don't need the, hey, you can do it, or just do it, or Marcus Aurelius said, if you can endure it, then endure it. Stop complaining. You don't need those statements at that point, because you've removed the need for them.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So how, Joe, people who don't know your story, before we continue with this, I'd love for you to tell people specifically how you went from homeless to best-selling author, speaker, and spiritual leader, and how specifically did Ho'oponopono take your life and career to a new level? What impact did it have on you as a person and on your professional work?
Yeah, big questions there. Well, as you mentioned in the introduction, I was homeless in the late 1970s in Dallas. Went through poverty for 10-some years, even though I had a book published in 84. It was, came out of the sky, went back into the sky. It was just a blip. Nothing happened because of it. I was still broke, still unknown, everything. But slowly, being persistent, working on myself, taking care of beliefs, I started to get books published, like in the 1990s. Started to get known as an internet marketer, as a copywriter, as the internet came along. Because of the internet and what I was doing at that point, I got a name for myself as one of the pioneers of internet marketing. I wrote one of the first books on internet marketing called Cyber Writing. And along around 1998, I think it was, my first Nightingale Conant program, The Power of Outrageous Marketing, came out, which was the turning point book for me, cause for great celebration. And again, made me a little bit more notorious on the internet as a marketer and an outrageous marketer and a copywriter. But I still had the spiritual side to me, and I had always had it since I was a kid. I was reading Robert Collier and metaphysical books and Think and Grow Rich and other ones along those pop psychology, success literature kind of a vein. And I wrote a little book it was called at the time, Spiritual Marketing. And it did really well. New York Times wrote about it. It was a print-on-demand book, and a big publisher picked it up, but he didn't like the title. We changed it to The Attractor Factor. The Attractor Factor was one of the first popular books on the law of attraction. I got invited to be in a movie by this strange woman from Australia who called me up and said, hey, I want to make a movie about the law of attraction, and I'd like you to be in it. Well, I'd never been in a movie before and just thought it was flattering. It was more than flattering. It was The Secret, and The Secret changed everybody's life and changed my life and put me on a new career path as a spiritual teacher. But I'm still working on myself. I'm still exploring my own spirituality. I'm still trying to unravel the universe. So even though I learned about internet marketing and copywriting, about spirituality, about Robert Collier, about the law of attraction, about The Secret, I'm still not done. I'm not quite satisfied. It seems like something's missing. And this is where I learned about Ho'oponopono. I learned about it and I dismissed it because I thought, well, this is too crazy. This is too ridiculous. How do I say a few phrases inside myself and I change other people? I change the planet. And of course, there's the famous story that I told in Zero Limits about the therapist who helped heal an entire ward of mentally ill criminals with Ho'oponopono. How is that possible? I thought it was crazy. So it took me a whole year to really accept the possibility that Ho'oponopono could make a difference. And by then, of course, I dived in deep, wrote Zero Limits. That came out in 2005, 6, somewhere in there, about the same time as The Secret. And the great irony that I'll tell you, but I haven't told other people, and that's the idea that as the movie The Secret was making me famous for the law of attraction, I was losing interest in the law of attraction because Ho'oponopono was taking the lead.
Right.
And I was also unraveling the stages of consciousness, realizing that The Secret and the law of attraction are actually on a lower level of consciousness.
Right.
And if you go up a level, you end up going where Zero Limits and At Zero and Ho'oponopono is living. So as I'm doing this and I'm practicing this, Joe here becomes a different person. Less driven, more inspired. Less goal-oriented, more inspiration-oriented. Less going from what my ego wants me to write or do next and paying more attention to what I call the great something, or Dr. Hulen would call divinity, asking me or telling me what to do next. So there was a profound internal shift in my life. And, of course, Zero Limits is probably the number one most popular book that I have written.
Wow.
And so it's resonated with the world. And I can go on and on. Dr. Hulen and I did 3 seminars together. I did advanced training on Ho'oponopono. I did At Zero, the follow-up book. I am still discovering more about Ho'oponopono, still researching it, and also being inspired by the divine, which is the whole reason for the 5th phrase.
Yes.
The 5th phrase was something from direct inspiration. So has Ho'oponopono influenced me? Gee, just a little.
That's amazing. Well, and I think you're giving people a great understanding too. Some people who know you are coming to this interview and this book, knowing you from The Secret. Mm-hmm. What a gift they're going to get in this program is to see that whatever inspiration and wonderful inspiration they got from The Secret, that this can take them to a completely new level of understanding of spiritual possibility and personal possibilities. We talked in the beginning of this session, Joe, about some of these cultural divisions and how they've been going on for a long time. But we also have divisions at an individual level, and was curious from you to find out how Ho'oponopono, how you have seen its ability to maybe help people heal these individual divisions. And specifically, physically, within our own body, we can have divisions. What divisions are what cause disease, whereas unity in the body leads to healing. So, for example, my mom suffers from a few autoimmune disorders. Many people in the country suffer from autoimmune disorders, cancer, GERD, and as opposed to stasis in the body, pH balance, calm breathing, and other things that kind of help unify the body. So without going into specifics of the Ho'oponopono process yet, just talk about your experience of how you might have used the process or others might to heal areas of division in their own body.
That's a great question. So again, we're going to go deep, which is so amazing. This program has already jumped off the diving board and gone into the deep end at least twice, if not 3 times, in the very first opening session.
Right.
So I'm impressed, if nobody else is so far. So going deep, the unconscious mind is full of limitations, programming, belief systems, a mental paradigm that the conscious mind isn't aware of. This unconscious mind is living out and acting out through the physical body. Now, there's a lot of teachers, including Dr. John Sarno, who specialized with back problems, who discovered that a back problem in somebody was actually suppressed rage. And the person would not even look angry. The person would be one of the most calm-looking people you would ever meet anywhere. But he found that was the trick of the unconscious. The unconscious was protecting that person from feeling rage, thinking that the person really can't handle that kind of an emotional overload. So let's express this feeling, this ache that's inside at the weakest point they can find in that person's body. In those particular cases with Dr. John Sarno, it was the back. They found a weakness in the back. It had nothing to do with slipped disc. It had nothing to do with an injury, because there were people with slipped disc who did not have pain. So he was finding that it's the unconscious mind trying to express itself. What's this have to do with Ho'oponopono? Ho'oponopono is to find and erase that belief and beliefs in the unconscious mind causing the health problem. My story that you would have read in At Zero is worth mentioning right now because it's fairly dramatic. And again, there's lots of stories of people that have been using Ho'oponopono and are still using it for everything from Lyme disease to the Crohn's to cancer to all of these, the heavy hitters and some of the most mysterious diseases and most persistent diseases out there. But a few years ago, I was called in because my mother was put in the intensive care in the hospital in Ohio. And not only I, but my entire family was called in because they said this is the end. And I went and I saw my mother in the hospital, and there was in the intensive care, there were only 2 or 3 people in the intensive care, and the other 2 died while I was there. This is how dramatic and how real it was. And I'm looking at my mother, and I have all kind of emotions going through my physical body, everything from anger at her, anger at myself, anger at God. How is this happening? You know, trying to find somebody to blame. And I'm seeing that I'm not a medical doctor, so I can't reach for anything that I can offer to help. My degrees are not in medicine, metaphysical science, and in marketing. It's not medical treatment. So what am I left with? Well, Ho'oponopono. I sat in a chair beside her bed. The rest of the family's in that room. They're all doing their various grieving. They're all doing their various processes. Who knows what they're doing? I'm sitting there and I'm doing, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. I'm not doing it to make her well. I'm doing it to bring some sense of peace to me. And this is one of the reasons Ho'oponopono is around. It is to help you find your tranquility. It is to help you get to your serenity. It is to help you get to your neutrality within yourself. When you get there, the outer world can change as a response to you. So I kept working on myself till I got to the point where I was fairly at peace. I was not 100% at peace. I honestly, candidly, transparently admit that. But I was enough at peace that I thought, okay, I think I'm okay now. They came in, the doctors, nurses said we all had to leave. Next day, get a phone call. My mother's better. Sitting on the side of the bed. Wants to go home. She went home for the next 3 years. So did the Ho'oponopono heal her? The way the philosophy of Ho'oponopono works, and we'll get into this throughout the program, is that the outer is actually a mirror reflection of the inner you. And so my seeing my mother on the outside is, in a way, is looking at an illusion, which Buddha said it was life's all an illusion anyway, and we just think it's there. Right. And so that projection is actually being projected from inside me. If I take care of whatever is in me that is not at peace and find that serenity, I could influence my mirage. Right. I could influence my illusion. And in that case, in this particular one with my mother, it appeared to work that way.
Amazing. So, again, this is another example of where, a lot of times we feel things are happening to us physically, and certainly the Western model of medicine, which has done some great things, leads us to believe that, again, these things are sort of happening to us, and, they're beyond our control. And certainly it couldn't be our spiritual self or emotional self that has any impact on that. I need to take a pill, or someone needs to do some kind of intervention to correct that. So this gives us a whole idea that in some way we can participate in with this process in our own healing as well as others' healing, which is powerful. How would that work too, Joe, on an emotional level? One of the things that works.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?